Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to this special session on proactive testing, risk-based test design. And let me give you a little bit of background. By the way, I'm Robin Goldsmith, and Kartik is also on the line. Kartik, you want to say hello?
Hello everyone, this is Kartik. Hope you're all doing well.
Okay. So we had some of you know that we had some technical difficulties with our first orientation session. And because of that, we thought it would be helpful to have an additional session to give people more opportunity to ask questions and discuss anything additional about the importance of testing and specifically about the importance of proactive testing, the methodology that I describe in this course. And just to make you aware, and we'll repeat this a little bit later, the logistics of the course are that we have done the orientation session and 2 what we call demo sessions. So those were 3 free sessions, and they've been recorded. The orientation session, as we said, got interrupted shortly before the end of the presentation. So the first 3 sessions, and this one also, will be available in recorded format for you to listen to. If you would like to continue with the remainder of the course, we will be starting that on Monday and doing that 1 hour a night at this time period through the Thursday of the following week. So there will be 9 additional hourly sessions. And to attend those, you need to pay. And I think you'll find that the cost for these courses is very reasonable. It's much less expensive than many seminars charge. So it's, in my humble opinion, which I'm not entirely unbiased, it's a pretty good deal. Now, the format for tonight is a little bit unstructured. In the previous sessions, we were presenting some of the materials in typical PowerPoint slides, and then there was opportunity for discussion, and if you have questions or comments, please chat them. Your telephones or connections, your audio is muted. So in case you didn't know who I am, my name is Robin Goldsmith, and there's a pack of lies about me. A couple of things that are especially relevant to this course is that I was a member of the IEEE Standard 829 revision committee. That's standard on software test documentation. And in the class, we talk about that, but we treat it differently from the way that a lot of people treat it. We treat it in a low overhead, high value manner. And I've also recently finished participation in Standards 730 working group, where we were totally revising IEEE Standard 730 for software quality assurance. Now, a lot of people use the term software quality assurance and are actually referring to testing. But I do want you to be aware that there are differences and that I am indeed familiar with both of them. So here's what I would like to cover tonight. I'd like to discuss the importance of testing, both to the organization, the business as itself, or the enterprise, and also the value or importance of testing to the development side of the house. And We want to identify some issues and challenges that testing faces, and then talk about proactive testing, my proactive testing methodology, which incorporates and addresses the issues that traditional reactive testing addresses, but goes way beyond them. So those are the topics that I want to start with, and then we're going to open it to other people's topics. But we're also going to open this to you right away. And what I'm going to do is shift from presentation or display mode to using the slides to capture ideas that people raise. And so instead of my just spouting off what I think is important about testing, perhaps each of you can chat quickly any importance that you see of testing to the organization, to the business, to the enterprise. So if you would, share your thoughts with us, and I will capture those in the slide as best I can. And I will caution you right off the bat that my computer tends to make a lot of mistakes. So anybody have any thoughts on this? Please chat them, and because we're going to be drawing upon your ideas. Yes, Kartik?
All right, so I wanted to add a couple more lines as well. So what I will try and do as part of this session is I will play the devil's advocate, and I would represent the major population of our typical audience. And when I say the typical audience, I would represent the audience or the thought process of one, the set of people who are absolute beginner into IT or software testing. Two, someone who's in a very, very early stages in their career, have built between 1 to 3 years of experience in software testing. And three, the population who has been working, who has been there in the industry, in the testing field, but then have constantly been looking at opportunities to grow their career, better their career, and so on. So as the time permits through the session, I will try and represent these set of audience and try and ask a few questions on their behalf.
Sounds good. Okay, sounds good. And so as we're waiting for colleagues, okay, so Anne, thank you, you're a brave one. And so Anne has said importance is to identify defects, okay, and that's an important thing, okay. And anybody else have any additional ideas? And while we're doing that, Kartik, perhaps you can use this particular point from the devil's advocate standpoint. So
yeah, and the other expectation that probably we would have is to go beyond the quantity of finding something and try and work more on the quality of the overall activity that we perform in software testing. For example, defects or bugs or issues is, my belief, a byproduct of the entire list of activities that we do, the entire set of artifacts that we develop, and a smaller portion of our overall role. So how do we go beyond that and magnify it? It becomes very critical.
So, for instance, identifying the causes and sources of defects. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, and the process of doing it, because then it will become more organic with every other team member within the QA organization, and will not be limited to just one a great QA engineer who's doing all the hard work. You see what I'm saying? Once we put in the culture and get the mindset of how we're going to approach the whole thing, and finally get the output as one of the measures being defined, the perspective will change. For example, I've been in the sales part of IT organizations for a significant portion of my career. And through the sales cycle, what we realize is not to focus too much on the final number of deals and the values of deals. We have tried to move away more towards the process of getting to close more sales deals. So am I doing the right things? Am I nurturing the leads right through every step of the process? Am I making the right calls to people? Am I providing the right solutions? What I'm trying to say is, are we doing the right things A to Z? And then I know that the sales will automatically happen through it. In the same manner, testing is, where is the finesse of the overall process of testing? And I know that once we follow that beautiful process through that right strategy of doing it in the right manner, the defects will not be hidden anymore. They will surface out. That's my thought process there.
Okay. And I agree with you completely. I'm not sure that that would be the thought process of the typical somebody new to the organization or new to the testing. By the way, can everybody still hear me?
I can.
Okay. There was some kind of beeping on my line there. Okay.
Okay. Exactly, and that's what gives the importance of this kind of a program, where we are trying to develop that finesse, trying to get more towards those value-added testing, like proactive testing, risk-based testing, the whole concept and approach.
Okay. So value added, in other words, beyond just catching defects. Okay.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, there's so many other measures. How many test cases or scenarios or use cases have been generated? What kind of a process methodology we follow? How well have we gone into the overall development life cycle of the organization? Are we one of the most prominent and irreplaceable teams who have a lot of knowledge about the business, about the IT process and so on? So all of these is what I'm trying to refer more and more.
Okay. Now those are all important things, but maybe we need to defer talking about them for a second, because I'm not sure that those are necessarily things that people would identify as important to the organization. Okay, about testing.
Exactly.
So go ahead.
Yeah, that's where my next question comes. Is one of the first things the audience would look at is, so what would this specific course do to my career? Let's say those three categories of people. I'm a beginner. I have a very, very early career in QA, or I have been in the QA field for a while, but I'm looking at more and more. So for each of them, how would this specific course help them? So that's one of the questions I would definitely want you to put forward and hear from you too.
Okay. Well, now that's another excellent question. I think before we get to that, we need to get a little clearer on why testing itself is important. Because if testing as the activity or skill is not perceived as important, then it's going to be very hard for somebody, regardless of how good or bad he or she is or how skillful they are at testing. It's going to be very hard for them to convey that there's value in what they're doing. And so, I think that we need to look a little bit more here at why testing is important. And Ann says, I thought test cases and use cases were very important user journeys. Okay, and so let's say something like relate to the user journey. That's a nice phrase that could mean a lot of things, I guess. Okay. So the question is, why would an organization care about having testing done? Why would it matter? Finding defects is important. Is there anything else that is testing just there to test? You talked a little bit about identifying the causes of the defects and a mindset or culture of quality, but why does that really matter? Everybody talks about quality, but when it comes right down to it, there's a lot of people that are in positions of authority that don't seem to vote with their time and resources for quality. So Ann says, making sure they have a perfect product. Okay. And I'm not sure whether perfect is absolutely the criterion, but certainly as opposed to an imperfect product. So exactly, so testing is really there to help the organization do what they do in an effective and efficient manner. Okay. Does that make sense?
For me, yes, Robin. So please go on with the audience and their questions as well, and their viewpoint. And I can get to a few more questions as we go through the session.
Okay. So basically, testing is really the purpose of testing is not testing. The purpose of testing is helping the organization do what they do well. And why do we care about that? Because organizations have trouble doing what they do. Okay. Now, testing is also something that affects the development side of the house, the programmers and analysts. Okay, and so let's see now. Dimitri said meets oops, what did I just do here? Meets end users' expectations. Okay, and once again, the expectations are presumably related to whatever it is that the organization does. Okay, good. So now we have a distinction between the organization or the company or the business, and they are one of the customers of testing. They are one of the major beneficiaries of testing. But in many ways, testing would think of the developers as their primary customers. And so there's a real question as to how testing is important to the development organization. And oftentimes this is less clear. Anybody have any thoughts on how testing would be important to the development organization, to the developers, the analysts, the coders, the project managers, and so forth? Any thoughts on that? And Kartik, from your devil's advocate standpoint, because the devil's advocate is often in this instance, the developers that say we don't need no stinking testing. So very often there's resistance from the developers because they don't think they need testing. So anybody have any thoughts about importance, what should be, what may or may not be what they recognize? Yeah. So identify defects from the requirement specification before coding starts. So you're helping the developers do stuff right instead of doing it wrong and having to do it over. Okay, good. Anything else anybody can think of?
I think one thing I could add is making them feel lesser guilty about what is happening and making them feel comfortable that there is a fact-finding exercise and not really a fault-finding thing for the overall quality of the product.
So how about if we say confidence?
As an end product, absolutely yes.
So the confidence that the product and their work are right. Something like that? Okay, that's a good one. Okay, whoops. Any additional thoughts? Anybody? So basically what happens if there is a defect that gets to the users? Okay. So help avoid introducing unexpected errors, says Stan. Okay. Anything else? These are good. Okay. So really, you save the developers time, effort, and aggravation, don't you? By catching problems before they get bigger. Okay. Does that make sense? So that's what testing is really intended to do. And then it becomes a matter of degree about how early they're caught and how much easier or harder it is, respectively, to fix them. Okay. Any additional thoughts? Anybody? So quality improvements help the organization to reduce post-release costs of support and service. Okay. And whoops. As I said, I keep hitting strange stuff here. I apologize. Let's see, reduce post-release costs, support, and service. Okay. Excellent. Anything else, anybody? Well, excellent. So, so what are some of the issues and challenges that testing faces from the outside? Things like perceptions and resistance. Anybody have any thoughts? In your experience, does testing face resistance? Does it have issues and challenges? One thing that I think everybody can identify with is that there's not enough time and resources to do the job that you want to do. Okay. Any additional thoughts? Requirements are not always clear. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Unclear requirements are certainly an issue. Any other issues? Changes. Requirements change. Okay. And so when requirements change, then all the work has to change. Okay. Developers and testers often fight over bugs and take things personally. Okay. So fight over bugs. Take things personally. Okay. Now I'm saying good for the answer, not good that it happens. Receiving new change requests impacting the planned deliverables. Okay, so deliverables change as well. Okay, good. Anything else? Any other issues? Changes in resources. Okay. So, nuts. Yeah. What, I apologize for the shenanigans that that my screen is doing, and let's see here. Okay. Gotta okay, sorry about that. By the way, what you are observing is functionality in my touchpad that frankly doesn't help me, and it just keeps messing me up, because there are certain ways that if you touch the touchpad, and I'm not trying to do it, but it keeps making judgments on my behalf. Okay? Those are examples of bugs, in my opinion. So let's see, changes in resources, and or replacement of resources. Okay, good. Other issues? Okay. Okay. And a lot of these come from the value of testing is not sufficiently recognized or appreciated. Okay. Anything else? Anybody? This is very annoying. Sorry about this. This is the downside of my using the keyboard. I usually use a separate keyboard. Okay. Okay. So any scope of the requirements is not finalized until one day before the test plan sign-off. Until very late. Okay, good. Anything else? So I think a lot of this comes from the value of testing not being sufficiently recognized. What about internal issues related to skills and knowledge? And by the way, Kartik, I haven't forgotten that people are wondering how this course might help them with these things. So we're going to tie that back together. We're not losing sight of those things. But right here, skills, knowledge, and methods, this is a big issue, or it may be. So what kind of internal challenges, especially regarding the skills, knowledge, and methods of testing, what's this mean to you folks? Is this relevant? And I would guess that you're interested in this class because of something to do with skills, knowledge, and methods. Okay. Anybody have any thoughts? Not enough knowledge is shared from the developers. Good. Okay, good. What else? Testers are often working with inadequate information. And it's especially when the developer makes some change and doesn't notify the tester can be going off on something that's no longer relevant. Okay, that can be a real frustration. Okay. Any other issues? Internal challenges to testing? Okay. Kartik, what about you as the beginner or early stage tester? Do you have the skills, the knowledge, the methods that you need?
Yeah, that'll be a big challenge. Both the app functionality, process functionality, process knowledge of how the whole QA organization works, and in general, any specific skills, techniques, tools like automation or test management or anything that helps further with getting this started. Because it's like the first day at school, at a new school, and you always feel kind of lost till you go around and explore things. So how can we make that portion easy? How can we have the other side of the people feel more confident about what we are trying to do in the field?
Okay. And make other people aware of what we do. Okay. Good. Anything else, anybody? Having knowledge, whoops, wait a second. So we had a couple that came in here. So the requirements often have contradictions. Okay, so this would be knowledge of the requirements and contradictions. Okay, and let's see, where did I need to, having the knowledge to write good test cases. Okay, so let's see here, how did I, knowledge to write good test cases. Okay, good. Anything else, anybody? Okay. Now I'm going to point out that most testers, okay, wait a second, lack of reverse walkthrough to the test cases mapped to the requirements, lack of reverse walkthrough tests to requirements. Let's say, and mapping tests to requirements. Good. Okay. So I'm going to suggest that in my experience, the typical tester has never had formal test training. And does not have good approaches and methods. Okay. Yeah, I think that that's a common issue. Now maybe your experience is different, but Kartik, this gets to those distinctions that you were making between a beginner and an early person and somebody who's been in the field for a while. And what I have found is that very often none of them has ever had any formal training in testing or any kind of a formal methods or explicit methods prior to prior to taking a course like this.
And I agree that for someone who's getting in, there's probably not a necessary prerequisite. However, what kind of an impact it would cause post taking the course?
Could you say that again? I didn't catch all of that.
So, as you said, that there is no necessary prior training needed before getting this kind of a program that we're talking right now. But I'm definitely referring to the fact that what kind of a skill and output they would obtain at the end of it that will help them in their career.
Okay. So let me take what you just said and phrase it a little bit differently. So what? That's really the issue, isn't it? The issue is whether it matters, whether people have any kind of formal or explicit understanding of testing. And what do people think? Okay. What's the effect of not having knowledge of testing, of methods, of approaches? What's the effect of that? What do you think? Do you think that this matters? Do you think that lack of knowledge affects people's effectiveness? What do you think? You think that if people are just kind of doing things in an ad hoc manner, in an implicit manner, it's going to affect them? Okay, Anne suggests we need structure, whatever we do. Okay, and lack of knowledge will affect the process. Okay, knowledge, and Dimitri says knowledge and experience would make us more productive team members. Okay, so the downside is lack of productivity, lack of effectiveness. Okay, and I cannot think of anything that is a bigger risk to somebody's job than not being effective. Okay. I don't know about you, but I would be real concerned if it became evident that I didn't know as much about my job as I really needed to know in order to do as good a job as I and my colleagues and employer are expecting. Now, the fact is that people can wander through life without having a whole lot of awareness. But things seem to happen that create awareness. Okay. And what kind of things happen that create awareness? So formal training provides testing-based techniques which improves the productivity and coverage and effectiveness. And I agree with you. Now, formal training can also create awareness of how well or not so well we've been doing previously, but usually, or too often, I've found that people decide that it's time to get testing religion only after some kind of a big problem has occurred. And when that big problem occurs, there are a lot of possible responses, and many of them are not going to turn out well for anybody. So sometimes that big problem means that the whole organization goes under or goes out of business or doesn't have the resources to deal with it or cuts back. And so there can be some real difficulties. But unfortunately, in the quality and testing field, too often people don't pay attention to quality and testing until after some big problem has occurred. And the impact of such big problems can be devastating. They can be devastating to the company. They can be devastating to you and me, the individuals, even though we may not have been directly involved. And so, to a considerable extent, getting better at testing is helping the company stay vital and helping our jobs continue to exist or creating additional jobs. Okay. Now, is that making sense? Okay. And so Dimitri says being proactive rather than reactive saves time and resources. Okay. And I agree with you. Okay. Okay. Saves time and resources. Okay. You're avoiding problems rather than reacting to them. Okay. Good. Anything else? Now, proactive testing, as I use the term, is methodology that incorporates all the proven, typical test techniques. Okay. So if you're familiar with, heaven forbid, if you're familiar with other courses, other training, other books, and so forth on testing, on the testing process, on test planning and design, okay, I think you'll find that most of the books, most of the courses, okay, just deal with typically they just deal with low-level test design methods or techniques. Okay. And in our course, we describe, and you get practice with familiarity with all of the test design techniques that any other testing course will describe, will discuss. The difference is that that's all most address. Okay. Proactive testing goes beyond. Okay. Okay. It has more powerful approaches to use the techniques and to spot ordinarily overlooked defects, especially big ones. Okay. And that's the big deal. Okay. That proactive testing in the same or less time produces far better results. Oh, and by the way, also aids acceptance by users, managers, and developers. Okay. And how would proactive testing aid acceptance? How would proactive testing aid acceptance? Because it helps people do their jobs quicker, easier, and better. Okay. And when people can do things quicker, easier, and better, they're just much more likely to want to do it that way. Okay. Is this making sense? Okay. Other questions here? Okay. So those are the topics that I introduced, and now I want to see if I can capture the ones that Kartik mentioned about do for my career as a new or recent or long-time tester. Okay. So Kartik, have you got any ideas yourself based upon anything that we've raised? Not sure whether Kartik is still with us.
Sorry, I guess. Sorry, I
there he
was
is.
talking. So, yeah, I think none specifically on that, but I've been sharing through the session and so on. Let me ask you this, Robin. Are we doing anything else apart from this right now? In the sense of, are you towards the end? Then I could probably ask a few things. Let me know when you get towards the end.
I'm at the point where I'm taking additional questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm going to give the audience a minute, and then I'll probably shoot a couple of them. Most of them have been coming to as answers through the session otherwise.
So knowing what to do, how to do it well, I think is critical. Okay, and effectiveness is the basis for influence and being valued. Okay, and also for enhancing opportunity to go beyond. Okay. So learning how, any course on testing will presumably help people get better at what they do. What I've found is that proactive testing creates value and being valued, recognizable by the rest of the organization. Okay, that you really can win fans. Okay, and that's important. Okay, and that you're focusing on results rather than activities. Okay, and that's a big differentiator. Most folks concentrate on activities. Okay. Effective managers focus on results. Ineffective managers focus on activities. Now, you need activities to produce results, but the difference is that if you focus just on activities, you just get activities. If you focus on results, you get the activities that produce the results. Okay. And it's really a value adding. And by the way, it makes me a lot happier and more satisfied too, okay? Because I'm doing stuff better. I know more about what I'm doing, okay? I'm more in control and aware, okay? And in my experience, people are very uncomfortable when they don't have control, when they feel like they don't have control or influence. Does this make sense? And the amazing thing here is that these things are as true for the long-time tester as they are for people new to the job. Because one of the things that I've found is that many people who have been doing the job for 20 years don't have 20 years of experience. They've got 21-year experience. You know, 1 year of experience 20 times, and it's the same experience. They haven't really grown, okay? Yeah, and so when I'm aware and growing, okay, you know, these are things that I see. Okay. Is this making sense? Kartik, does that sound like an answer that would be important to your beginner and to your early person and to your long time?
Robin, yes, partially yes, because again, this is one of those very important aspects to address, apart from all those other skills and traits that you need to learn, some on job, some on training. So I agree with what you're saying. I agree with the fact of from its important standpoint.
Okay. Because I'm going to tell you that you know, there are many testing jobs available, and many people who are vying for them. And you know, if you've got some kind of an organized background or organized training, it's going to give you an advantage, but it's not going to get the job for you, and it sure isn't going to do it for you. So you still have to be a major part of the equation, but it can prepare you to do that job and to learn on the job in ways that would be much more difficult if you didn't have some kind of an organized approach and set of methods to apply. Okay, that's my thinking. Kartik, we're technically at the end of the hour, but you had a couple other questions that you wanted to raise, and I'll be glad to raise them here if people want to continue on with us, and I hope you do. So will the course cover activities which are done by the test lead? Okay, and so does the course cover activities done by the test lead? Okay. Okay, whoops. Absolutely. So, Saman, what kinds of activity are you familiar with? What test leads do or should do? And if so, what do you have in mind? So, for instance, resource planning. Okay. Excellent. Now, the fact is, and test plan preparation, which is resource planning, would be part of test plan. Okay. And, oops, what did I just do here? Okay. Understanding the functionality end to end. Okay. So, planning involves understanding the functionality end to end. Okay. Unfortunately, too often people don't. They dig into the test case detail. Okay. Now, proactive testing absolutely starts with the big picture and the big risk issues, the ones that cause showstoppers. Okay. And because of the way that we do it, we can do it in ways that help avoid the showstoppers. Okay. And we can, because we can anticipate test the biggest risks more and earlier. Okay. Now that's really important. Because traditional reactive testing is usually not able to test the biggest risks earlier because the reactive testing is getting involved too late. And the reactive testing is simply reacting to what's already happened. Proactive testing provides means to anticipate. Okay. So, proactive testing is absolutely focused upon planning and designing the tests, which is the highest payback, the highest leverage. Traditional testing is building test cases. We don't build test cases until we've identified which are the important ones. And so we end up with better tests, more effective tests, ones that can catch more of the important problems earlier and cheaper. Okay. And the net effect is greater value. Okay. Does that, Simon, does that help? Does that make sense? And this is due to approaches and techniques that traditional reactive testing just doesn't know about. So we'll apply all the stuff that traditional reactive testing applies, boundary tests and equivalence classes and decision tables and so forth. But we do it in much more effective and efficient ways. That's the big payoff. And so the course provides information. It's not saying this is the job of somebody with a particular title, because your particular organization may not have that title. Okay? You know, if you're in a relatively small group, everybody does everything. If you're in a large group, then there's a lot more differentiation based upon title. But we're not assuming that any particular title is there, or that a particular title in one organization necessarily acts the same way as that same title in a different organization. We're talking from a content and conceptually what needs to be done, how to do it well, and then it's a matter of adapting it to the particulars of your own project team. You may have somebody dedicated to something. It may be somebody's part-time job. You know, it's all over the place. So does that help? Are there other questions? Anything else? Kartik, did you have any other questions that you'd like to add?
Yeah, Robin. So I think, like I was trying to mention, again, coming from the audience standpoint, one of the things that will really help is the recognition of such a thing from the market. Because most of the time, the market and the industry decide and drives the candidates as to what skill they need to acquire and learn. And for example, what is the kind of value if any individual would put proactive testing and risk-based testing, then that's the fact that they've attended such a program on their resume. Does it carry weightage? Is that something that the industry recognizes and says, oh, that's good to know that you've gone through it. And I strongly believe if I see something of this kind of a training that any professional has gone through in the testing world, I would definitely be encouraged to have more belief in them.
Okay, so I think that's a good question. Okay, and so let me answer that in a couple of different ways. The first thing is that there's a question of how much importance a prospective employer gives to training courses. Okay. Period. And that's going to be all over the place. Okay, so I cannot speak for any given employer. Some employers are going to care, some are not going to. And then, whoops. And then there's the issue of what they know of and give greater weight to. Okay. Now, the fact is that there are many courses on testing, and every one of them does, provide some value. Okay. Whether those courses provide as much value as somebody attributes to them is hard to say. A lot of that is dependent upon things that you and I don't have any control over. Okay. What I would say is that there are a lot of courses on testing that are pretty much interchangeable. Okay. Okay. They're all dealing with reactive sets of low-level test design techniques. Okay. Now, rather than saying what are the chances somebody has heard of this course, okay, because I can't judge that. I mean, there are many other courses that are better known. Okay. What this course does is that it gives you the conceptual underpinning and greater value approaches to present yourself more persuasively. Okay. Yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had the opportunity over the years to see many applicants who have nothing but a transcript. And frankly, that's not very, it's not very meaningful. It's hard for any potential employer to put a whole lot of weight on any course by itself. The question is, what does that course enable you to think and act and do? And I would say that if you come out with a proactive testing orientation, rather than saying, hey, I took proactive testing, instead you're able to say, well, here's how I'd approach that. Here's some of the things that I would find, and there's a good chance that if you're dealing with a savvy manager, they're going to recognize that you're better prepared to come in and be productive and of value. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's how I would approach it. Because I'm yes, sorry, but none of us is offering a Harvard degree here.
Right, and the intent of me asking the question is very simple, because there are some things that stand out. This is what I'm trying to tell to the audience for a while, that this is not a course by itself that says that, okay, this is the one and only course that I need to take. This is more of a differentiator that will get more value to what services an individual does. And from that perspective, I believe it does add value when they put it on the resume saying that they've gone through such a program. It shows the breadth of the maturity that this individual QA tester possesses in the industry.
Okay, say that last part again. I lost that.
Basically gives the feeling that the individual is a mature QA professional and is constantly looking for new ways to improve on their own activities and work. It's like a constant improvement, constant looking at how to be a better QA engineer.
Exactly, but not only that they have the motivation, mature and motivated, but also ready. Okay. And one other thing that I wanted to point out, and that is that, of course, a lot of the training that ITeLearn presents is in the use of various tools. And the fact is that if you don't understand how to plan and design your tests, you're not going to get nearly as much value out of those tools. Okay, the way that the necessary thing for getting value from the tools is not just understanding how to use the tools, but more importantly, how to understand what tests to use the tools for. And that's where this type of training is absolutely essential. You know, and once again, one of the things that I've encountered and certainly seen time and time again is that somebody has some familiarity with the tool, whether that's because they used it or were exposed to it in their prior job or because they took a course on it or whatever. But when confronted with having to use the tool to accomplish something useful, they lack the understanding of the test planning and design, the identification of which tests to apply the tool for. And so this is another piece, and it's exactly what you were saying, Kartik, that you know, it goes hand in hand. It's not a standalone thing. It's a basis for expansion. Anybody have any?
In fact, I know.
Yeah, go ahead, Kartik.
No, I was actually saying, no, sounds good. And in fact, I was a little more concerned about the time. We've played about 20 minutes over.
Exactly.
I, in fact, changed the schedule and gave another 5 minutes grace during the earlier today, just anticipating that it could get a little long. But again, Robin, from your side, please go ahead. We can then wind up accordingly.
Yeah, I was just going to say we have gone over, and hopefully it's because you found this interesting and helpful. I will again remind you that the course, the risk-based test design course, consists of 12 modules, 12 one-hour sessions. The first three, the first one is called the orientation. The second and third are called demos. Those were free sessions. Those recordings of those sessions are available on the ITeLearn website. And if you would like to continue with the course, starting on Monday, the subsequent 9 sessions are available only for people who pay, and you can do that on the website. I hope that you would find that something that would be valuable to you, and you have the alternative of only listening to recorded versions or paying a little bit more so that you can attend the live sessions similar to this, except that they're not free form like this. So if there are any other questions, I'd be delighted to entertain them. If not, I thank you for your time and participation. Kartik, thank you for yours. And I hope you will all find this helpful. I hope that you will be able to take advantage of it, and that you will see yourself to sign up for the remaining 9 sessions so that you can get the full story and get some more specific exposure to the powerful proactive testing, test planning and design techniques. Okay.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Thank you much, everybody.
All right. Bye now. Talk to you later.
Okay.
The organizer has ended the session, and this call will be disconnected. Goodbye.